Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. With me, as always, on Wednesdays is my good friend, Alex Speers. Alex, what's up?
What's up, Andrew?
Honestly, a very strange game that we watched. This was the first time that we have seen all season the Thunder without Shea and J-Dub. So we've always had
And
at
and
least one.
Us and Usman Jang.
And Oos, first time ever.
First
Those
time ever.
three. Hey,
And
Oos
he
was a little
happened to have
too busy getting some dubs out there, man.
that's what I was gonna say. Had a game winner. Game winner.
Hey, you know what? Thunder maybe they could have used him. Needed somebody that could hit a game winner out there.
We're gonna talk about our bold predictions from preseason later, and it would have been nice for me
Yeah.
if Us had been there. Because some of my and
no.
some of Michele's bold predictions involved Usman Jang. So
Wow.
yeah.
It's so funny how he's definitely faded into the background in a lot of ways. But,
Yeah.
you never know. You never know what's going to happen with old Oos in the future. But right now, not front of mind, Usman Jang. Something that is front of mind is the Thunder losing to the Sixers, 109 to 105. And just a strange game. Like I said, they played well enough to win the game. Down the stretch, you could just see the absence of Shea and J-Dub down the stretch of this game.
It was brutal. It
was really tough just manufacturing possessions that were possibilities to score. It was just really, really, really rough.
But the tough part was that is through certain stretches of that game, the offense looked fine. Like they were getting decent shots. We'll talk about the rest of the game later, but yeah, when it got down to clutch time, it just everything just ground to a halt. And credit to Josh Giddey. Like this is definitely the first time all season where I've been thinking in my head, like, Mark, please call a timeout to get Gideon, because there were like 3 possessions where it was just like the ugliest basketball I've ever seen, and Giddey's there at the scorer's table. I'm like, oh my God, Mark, just call the timeout. Just get him in so we can run something that looks normal. And then, of course, he comes in and then has that like really bad turnover with Embiid, who can barely move and somehow strips Giddey on the drive. But that's how bad it was that like Giddey looked like the only guy there at the end of the game who could like come in and do something. Now, I do think we should mention, maybe start at the top with Jalen Williams, J. Will, because I was expecting coming into this game, given how good Giddey has been lately, like, oh my gosh, this is a perfect setup for a Giddey game. Like this has to be a huge Giddey game. Well, how could it not be? And it wasn't that he was bad, but it certainly wasn't, an amazing game from him. But meanwhile, everything, especially early on in that game, running through J. Will. I mean, I think he had like, what did he have, like 6 assists just in like the first quarter and a little bit?
In like no time. He had 6
Yeah.
assists.
And it was just like all these DHOs at the top of the key, which I do think he's like really good at, because he's very good at doing the handoff and then like sticking his butt out just enough to like disrupt the guy who's chasing whoever he just handed the ball off to. But he was just, I think if I counted correctly, because they did not have a great shooting night from 3. They were 13 of 39. I think he accounted for 6 of those threes in terms of assists. He was 0 of 5 himself, but I think he accounted for 6 of those threes. And he had some really nice passes that didn't even lead to shots. Like there was one early in the game, like off the short roll, kicking it to a guy in the corner. There was that pass early in the game where he like threw a laser to Dort under the basket, and Dort missed the shot. But yeah, he was very impressive, and it was a night where they like desperately needed someone to be able to do that.
Yeah, he had 4 assists in the first quarter, 5 in the second quarter, and then
that's crazy.
2 and then 1. Yeah, he played really well. He kind of, we talk a lot about, adding like somebody like a Kelly Olynyk or somebody like that. And he's definitely not the scorer that Kelly Olynyk is, but he kind of mimics like some of like the defensive stuff that he does, and then obviously like the passing, like the ability to be like this like mini hub for them. Not that you would want to run everything through him, but just having the option to do that at times, I thought was interesting. And the fact that they just started him, they could have gone in a lot of different directions with
Yeah.
who they started in this game. But I think some of it had to do with Embiid, which to me, like, kind of signals a little bit that if they were to play a bigger team, this Chet J Will combination could be one that they use. And for the most part, it worked. Really, it just came down to just offensive execution at the end of this game. I mean, the Thunder Chet made a shot with 4:15 left. The Thunder did not make another field goal until that Dort put back, which was with 53 seconds left.
Yeah.
I mean, they made some free throws in the middle of there just to kind of keep it close, but they could not buy a bucket at the end of this game. And in credit to the Thunder there at the end, because they had many open looks. Isaiah Joe had 2 really good looks at it, and then Jay Will had a really good look at it too. And they just didn't make them. They had a chance to get to overtime, like probably 3 amazing chances to get this to overtime, and they just couldn't do it.
Yeah, and you could kind of feel like Isaiah Joe wanted that game. I mean, he took 11 threes, which I went back this season. There's only been 4 players who have taken 11 threes. Interestingly, those happened in 2 games. Like in the Toronto double overtime game, 2 guys had 11 threes.
Yeah.
And then in the first Sixers game, 2 guys took 11 threes. So it hasn't happened that often, and he was certainly firing. And, going into those final shots, he was 4 of 9 from 3, but then he misses those last 2. And they were great looks. Did he airball one of them?
He airballed the second one. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was disappointing, but I mean, honestly, like what other shot would you want in that moment? I mean, a wide.
That's the one. That's the exact one that you'd want. I mean, I guess maybe a Chet 3 would be like the only other alternative, but just because he's been so good in the clutch this season from 3. But I don't know. Like I can't walk away from that game like complaining. One, they didn't have like their 2 table setters were not in the game late, and it was very obvious because they could not generate anything offensively there at the end. Whenever and credit the Sixers too, because they really just decided we're just going to go to Embiid over and over again, and they were able to get points that way. Embiid had the steal on Giddey. Like Kelly Oubre ran a pick and roll with Joel Embiid, which has to be the first like executed pick and roll of Kelly Oubre's season.
How dare
there
you?
at the end of the game.
You're always trying to deny the greatness of Tsunami Papi. He's
Tsunami
doing
Papi.
that. He's doing that all the time, Andrew.
I mean, he's definitely not, but he was good. Like he hit some big time shots. Some of those threes were really, really tough. And I thought the Thunder's defense was good. I thought that they were good from top to bottom. And then it just really came down to can we get good shots? And they had good shots there in that last possession, but up until then, it was just really, really tough trying to find somebody to execute. And it is just really funny, just the narrative flip here at the end where it's like, oh my gosh, we need Giddey out there. I mean, you weren't the only person thinking that. It was everybody. Like all.
Well, I mean, the announcers were saying it.
Yeah, where's Giddey? They need to get Giddey out there, which is, typically in the before these last 4 weeks, you would add another word to that. We need to get Giddey out of there.
That's right.
I mean, that was the word. But now, I mean, he didn't have his greatest game, but still, you can still see the renewed confidence there with Giddey, and feel a lot better about him heading into the playoffs. playing like this than he was.
Yeah, but I was almost just surprised, like, given how he's played, for him to only take 8 shots in that game.
I
Pretty
know.
surprising because he's been so aggressive over this recent stretch.
Uh-huh.
First of all, Kelly Oubre, 2 pick and roll ball handler possessions per game, 0.79 points per possession. Not not good, but
I
he
was
does
gonna say,
do it. Okay. Anyways, he does do it. Um, yeah, the only other 2 things were, 1, Chet looked good, um, for the first, like, real good for the first time in a minute,
yeah,
because he's had a rough little stretch that, he doesn't seem to have an injury, but, thinking ahead to the playoffs, it's the same thing with Shea. It's like, if this team's gonna reach its ceiling, Shea needs to be MVP Shea, and Chet needs to be, like, early season Chet,
yeah.
and this
Or
was
after All-Star
close.
break, Chet. Yeah.
Yeah, this was closer to that. He started off super hot with those 8 points, and
Mhm.
then later, I think it was in the 4th quarter where he had those couple of, like, he had the finger roll, spin and finger roll, which was really impressive, and then he
Yeah.
had another really impressive, rim attempt.
Mhm.
Um, so he looked better overall, and then the other guy who stuck out to me, even though looking at his box score, it's not that impressive, but I like what I saw from Cason Wallace at the end of the first, I believe it
Yeah.
was, beginning of the second, where he kind of was able to take on more of a primary ball handler role, and
Yeah.
he had a couple of really nice possessions, in terms of just, like, breaking down his guy and getting up a good shot. I'm just excited because as good as he's been as a rookie, it still feels like there's just so much untapped potential there with Kaysen.
Mhm.
And I think it was you who mentioned that the team is interested in, like, giving him more responsibility going
Mhm.
forward, but it's
Mm.
going to be a process, and hopefully we'll see some of that in summer league, where he should get, like, the bulk of those possessions.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, he should be like the primary initiator of everything in summer league, and
yeah,
we'll see how it
which
goes.
which should be cool. I'm just excited to see that part of his game develop, because I do think there's something there.
Mhm.
Like, again, it's only a couple of possessions, but he looked like he was translating that same efficiency that we've seen him from in his off ball role to the on ball role, and so I just like to see more of
Mhm.
that. Anything else from this game? Gorgman did have 7 points,
7 points.
2
Uh,
rebounds, 2
big
assists.
big shot late. Yeah, he
Yeah, big shot that went, like, all the way around. Did not think that was in.
did. Yeah, he played 20 minutes in this one. It's a little there's like some minute totals that are a little surprising, where they were clearly wanting to get like an extended look at him. They only played Kenrich 14 minutes, only played Kaysen 13 minutes in this one. They gave Aaron Wiggins 32 minutes in this one. I thought Wiggs could have just been a little bit more aggressive
Well,
offensively.
it's funny you say that, because, like, if you go back and look at the shots he did make, so many of them were, shots involving Joel Embiid. Like, it started off early when he generated that steal, and then he's on the break, and Embiid's, like, right behind him, and you're kinda wondering, okay, a lot of guys at this point would pull it out or do something to avoid the chase down block from Embiid, and he
Hmm.
just, like, turned on the jets and tried to
Yeah.
get the layup before Embiid could get to him, which worked, and then he
Hmm.
had another, like, reverse layup later in that game
Yeah.
against Embiid again. So, in some ways, like, he was very willing to challenge Embiid, but, yeah, maybe those moments were a little too far in between, because, I mean, overall, he was 5 of 13. I thought he played fine overall, and he had
Hmm.
moments of aggression, but yeah, it wasn't the usual, like, hyper efficient Wiggins that we're used to.
Yeah, and some of that is that he's not playing with Shea or
Yeah,
Tatum, because he's able to kind of pick his spots when he's playing with those guys, and is often playing against a guy who's like the third or fourth best defender on the other team. And
right.
things just get shifted, during games like this. But I don't know. I find it hard to complain after a game like this. They played really hard. They were really they played together. They just couldn't manufacture shots at the end of the game. And that's what it all came down to. And also just like I, I was Tony Brothers. I don't really love the unsuccessful challenge. I really thought that was going to get overturned. I don't know if you felt the same way.
I don't know. It's one of those. Are you talking about the Embiid charge block at the end against Chet?
Well, it's not even a charge block. It's just like it really shouldn't have been a foul at all. I didn't think.
Oh, okay.
The one that Mark challenged at the end,
Yeah.
the ball went off of Embiid, but they ended up giving him free throws anyways. And
Yeah.
there were like a couple like very much like gimme calls for Embiid down the stretch. That was one of them. And then Jay Will, who was just as straight up as you could be.
Yeah, that one I felt like was more egregious. Because the Chet one, I mean, like in slow-mo, it feels like he gets there and
Yeah.
he's like in a position, but he's in that position for like such a split second, and it's because you're watching on slow-mo that it looks that way.
Yeah, but they get to watch it on slow-mo. That's the point of the challenge.
I know, but like the idea that a guy is like establishing position for like the tiniest of a split second.
But it wasn't called block charge. It wouldn't have been that it would be called a charge. It would just been that there was no foul at all. I didn't think there was a foul on that play. I just don't think he fouled him at all. I don't think it was a block charge. I think it was that Chet didn't foul him, and that Embiid just kind of fumbled the ball as he went up, like couldn't like keep possession of the ball.
Right.
And Chet kind of like got his hand on the ball, and then it went off of Embiid's hand. It really should have been Thunderball, and then, but I mean that could have been the game right there.
Yeah.
Embiid hits those 2 free throws.
I guess the reason the J Will one bothered me more is because the Chet one looks like a lot of fouls that Joel Embiid does get, so it wasn't that out of the ordinary. Whereas like the J Will one, yeah, I agreed with you. Like it looked like he was just straight up and
like on it, like yeah, that would be one where I would ask the league, like what would be the expectation of J Will in that situation? Like what is he expected to do differently? Well, like tell me.
yeah.
Because I don't think I think the answer would be nothing.
Nothing.
Like and it may, we'll get the last 2-minute report, which I just really, I don't care that much about it, but it would not surprise me if that one came back as the wrong call.
Did you see the Jeff Teague clip of him talking about Tony Brothers?
Yes.
God,
it makes me lose. I mean, I already didn't love Tony Brothers and didn't have like I wasn't like oozing respect for this guy. And then you watch that and you're like, oh my gosh, this dude not only can be a pretty bad official, but he is a scumbag as well. It's like great.
It's pretty funny. If you haven't watched it, Tony Brothers just comes across as a guy who's just like really trying to be cool with the players. And Jeff Teague tells a story where he tries to be a little too cool, and it turns out that he is talking about Jeff Teague's mom and sister who are on the sideline, and Jeff Teague just like blew up at him.
This dude, he's awful. He's so awful.
Yeah, as I was watching that game, I was like, man, this would have been a good Trey Mann game, just because they just needed someone who could. I'm serious. They just needed someone who could generate his own shot. I was like, Trey would be able to do something in this game.
My gosh, that is really funny. I would have never ever thought that.
Really?
Yeah,
well, there was parts of that game where like the offense was just so stagnant, and a lot of it felt because there just was no one on the court who could break anyone down, and so they were just. In fact, did you see that audio assist? I thought it was like the first time where like the coaches huddle was interesting. It was Mark, and he was talking to the players about how they were just like standing and passing, like they weren't doing anything with purpose. And he was like, if you don't have an advantage, pass it, like turn it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really good clip. We usually don't see anything quite that interesting. But yeah, I was sitting there thinking about Charlotte Hornet Trey Mann. I bet he would have been able to do something in this game.
I do think, a lot. I feel like a lot of times we think, oh, the Thunder couldn't possibly bring in like another guard to this team. But you just
Yeah.
wonder if they could use more of a shot creator off the bench.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
so like just like thinking about the draft, I don't know that Ron Holland is like a thundery guy, but like he
Yeah.
can create his own shot. You know, Jared McCain from Duke. You know, there are players that you just think, huh. I just wonder if they could just use somebody that could like really create their own shot, like even like a Malik Monk, you know.
Well, it's kind of like if if Gordon Hayward was just playing like he was earlier this season,
Yeah, this season. I
that's
know.
really the player that you're interested in, because it would be nice if that person also had some size.
Yeah,
And so yeah, Gordon would be great for that.
would be.
Uh, or maybe, hey, maybe it'll end up being Oos, Andrew.
Hey, let
Secret of
Oos
the
loose.
Oos.
Let Oos loose with Moose next season. I guess, I mean, you could do it this season, but you know they're title, trying to win a
Yeah,
G League
trying to win a G League title. So now you look at the standings. OKC's dropped third.
title. Mm-hmm.
Minnesota has the tiebreaker because they have a slightly better record in division.
Yeah,
which that is still up for grabs.
I was gonna say that's not done. They're 12-3. The Thunder are 12-4 in their division. Man, the Nuggets are 8-6. A lot of that is some of that's because of the Thunder.
Yeah, and so they still have a game against Denver left.
Mm-hmm.
But wait, what's the third tiebreaker then? Because then
Conference record, then it would, but that would go to Minnesota.
Oh, okay. So we're unlikely. Although, could that change? Let's see.
But
OKC still has Sacramento, San Antonio, and Dallas, so they could get to 26 and 15 in. Oh wait, that's their way. Where's the
36-16?
Okay, so they could tie them in wins, and if Minnesota lost out, could they be tied? What's the fourth tiebreaker?
He got me. Do they go to point differential then, which would go to the Thunder? Like I don't know. I don't know what they do.
It sounds though like if they end up tied, OKC is going to be below Minnesota, and
Yeah.
it's hard to know exactly what I want right now. I still think, I mean, so it's very hard because
It's very hard.
the Kings and the Suns winning recently, and then New Orleans has lost 2 in a row. So
Mm-hmm.
now Sacramento and Phoenix only a game back of the Pelicans and the Mavs, because Mavs and Pelicans have the same record. I still think the Mavs are going to finish as the highest of those teams because
I think so
yes,
too.
they lost to Golden State, but their remaining schedule is still pretty light. Like they play Atlanta, Golden State, Houston, all those are at home,
Mm-hmm.
and then Charlotte, Miami, Detroit, OKC.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a terrible schedule. The Suns obviously have the hardest of all of those. The Kings are now playing without Malik Monk.
Mm-hmm.
And the Pelicans, let's see what the Pelicans' schedule is. So they go Orlando, San Antonio, Phoenix, Portland. So they have 2 potentially easy ones in there. And then Sacramento, Golden State, Lakers.
Yeah. I would still argue, and some of this actually, I mean, I don't know. You could argue that you'd rather be the 2-3 than the 1, you know.
So you maybe, but you also, I'm cool with being the 2-3, but now all I'm thinking about is, okay, that's fine as long as Denver's 1.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, I don't want to be 2-3 with Denver.
If Denver finishes first, the much easier side of the bracket is in the 2-3.
Right.
And it doesn't really matter to me, it really doesn't matter which one you are. Like you want to, if you want to avoid Denver until the conference finals, you know, obviously you have to be in the 2-3, but also if you want to avoid Dallas.
And Denver should have the inside track because 1, they only have 6 games left.
Mm-hmm.
3 of those are Memphis, San Antonio, Utah. And then the other ones are Atlanta, Clippers, and then that big game against Minnesota. And that's on April 10th. So that's a week from today.
Yeah, they should be able to take care of business against those teams.
Yeah.
Kawhi Leonard is having his knee looked at, the one that was just operated on.
Really?
Yeah, he didn't play last night.
I saw he didn't play. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he flew back to LA to have they're like examining his knee.
Oh
So
man.
it's just in time for the playoffs. That's just how it goes. So I guess he traveled with the team and then they sent him back, which sounds terrible.
Yeah.
Like that sounds terrible. And goodness, the Clippers were just an embarrassment. They scored 95 points last night against the Kings, who aren't some like juggernaut defensive team.
Well, Westbrook was their leading scorer for the first time all season, which is
Yeah,
it's great for Russ, but that's not a good sign for
dude,
the Clippers.
Harden was in 31 minutes, took 7 shots, made one
Yeah.
of them, went to the free throw line for 3 of 4. Like this dude, everybody got fooled again in midseason by this guy.
The scary thing for them is they're gonna have to commit to him.
You don't have to,
but you kind of do.
but you kind of do, but you don't, but you do. They play Dallas in round 1. If Kawhi is not 100%, like they're toast again in round 1. Reminding everybody they lost in round 1 last year to the Suns. If they lose again, I know like they don't want to go into this new arena with a bad team, and they're not going to rebuild. But it's just like, what do they do?
Well, I was thinking about it the way people think about all these teams. One of Denver, OKC, Minnesota, Clippers, Dallas are going to lose in the first round. At least one. And right now, it does look like the matchup's going to be Dallas Clippers. And yeah, I think everyone would favor Dallas right now. And that's brutal if they have another first round loss. Brutal because you've already committed to Kawhi. Mm-hmm. Does this affect your ability to re-sign PG? Which, who knows? Maybe that's a good or bad thing. I was going to say, know.
We don't read, and we should know better than anybody. Don't read the situation based on what happens, because, the Thunder should not, based upon how they finished the season, should not have had a chance to re-sign Paul George, and yet they did.
Yeah,
so do not like say, oh my gosh, now he's going to Philly, or now he's going to do this, and now he's going to do that. Paul is a different kind of guy, and he's I would say he's very easily influenced. And if there is like somebody that comes to him that offers a better situation, I think it's possible. But also, I think both he and Kawhi want to be in LA and want to like finish their careers in LA. And honestly, if you're a Thunder fan, Paul George leaving might be the best thing, but also like these dudes like breaking down in LA could end up being like the best thing for the Thunder for that 26 unprotected pick. So,
Oh yeah, I'm like, I hope they re-sign all of them. I hope they are just completely locked in.
Yeah,
I would love that. They are going to be so expensive next year, kind of regardless. But the fact that like they still have PJ Tucker's $11.5 million next year as a player option, and then next year,
he's picking it up.
Yeah, he's picking up. He's already picked it up. Next year, Zubats and Terrence Mann are expirings.
That's what I was just about to look at. Is like, when does Zoo expire? Because
so if they like re-sign PG, Harden, let's say they sign him to like 3-year, $100+ million deal. It's probably going to be more than that for PG, at least.
Yeah, a lot.
So let's just say they have like roughly 130 to 150 committed to just those 3 guys for the next 3 years. You still got Norm Powell for another 2 seasons, 19 and 20.
Yeah,
and then Zubats and Terrence Mann expiring $11 million deal. So then you got to re-sign them for the 25-26 season.
Yeah,
you would.
And if you don't re-sign them, you can't just fill their slot with somebody else that makes $10 million because you're not going to have it.
Right, and you're going to be over the second apron, and so you can't even have a lot of the functionality that you would have had before. Like you're not going to have your what is it called? Mid-level exception. So yeah, they are so screwed and will be the most expensive team in the league, most likely, if they bring all these guys back. And to do that for a team that goes out in the first round, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. If Kawhi is magically healthy, then I could totally see them flipping a switch
Yeah,
once it gets to the
yeah,
playoffs. It would
without a
not
doubt.
surprise me at all.
They
And
can
it
beat
actually
Dallas.
would be
Yeah.
extremely funny if they, after everything that's happened this last month, if they went in and beat Dallas, who
Mhm.
Dallas is now like seen as kind of like a dark horse, in the West. Everyone really likes Dallas.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
okay, you ready to move on?
Kind of, except for there are 6 nicknames on Basketball Reference for Ivica Zubats, and I don't know if you've heard any of these.
Uh,
Zublock,
isn't it-
Zublaka, Big Z, Zoo, which we've heard, Zupak, and Zoo Alcindor. You use
man,
those?
I don't.
You
Big
can't.
Z, that's the Drunus.
I know you can't call him.
Stolen. Zublaka, I feel like that's stolen from Serge Ibaka
Yeah.
and Blaka. Um, Zual Cinder, I mean, that's pretty good. It's fine. Zupak, fine.
It's pretty funny
Zublock.
for him to have so many block reference nicknames, and he is a career 1 block per game.
Yeah, that is very strange. He's only averaged more than 1 block in his last 3 seasons.
I know.
Previously, he didn't even do that.
Yeah.
What are they talking about? I mean, with Ibaka, guy was averaging over 3 blocks a game.
Yeah.
Deserving
It's
of the
crazy.
nicknames.
Yeah.
Okay, so we did preseason bold predictions. Me, Andrew, and McKelly. Kelly's not here, but we still get to talk about his bold predictions.
Yeah.
We made some Thunder specific ones and league specific. We'll go over the Thunder ones since they're the most interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so me and McKelly, our first bold prediction was that Shea Gilgeous-Alexander would have a 50, 40, 90 season.
Mm.
And we didn't get it, but I think we were on the right track. Just from the sense that he did shoot
real good.
no, he did shoot a lot better from 3 this
Yeah.
season.
Yeah.
He did have that bounce back year. He was above 90% from the line for a while. And obviously he's always going to be over 50% from the field. So
Mhm.
it still feels like something he could accomplish at some point in his career.
Yeah.
But
I think
he did
someday
not this year.
the threes are going to be. I mean, that's going to be the real challenge because it's obvious that he can. I mean, he's done the 50-90 part, once.
Yeah.
Like he could do 50-90 again. It's just, is he ever going to shoot over 40% from 3 again, which he's done once in his
Right.
career 35%. That's tough, especially with the kinds of threes that he wants to take, which are like the step back variety.
Right. My second one, I said that Josh Giddey would attempt over 300 free throws.
Wow.
And as a reference, I think you said on the pod that like last season, only 38 players had done that. He's averaging fewer free throws than he did last year. He will not get to. I mean, his number last year was 145. So I was saying basically he's going to double it.
Yeah.
He's at 108 for this season, so not even close. The
So
funniest thing about that bold prediction, though, is that you guys only gave it a jalapeno. You barely thought it was spicy.
really?
Yeah, we were so like FIBA pilled. We were just like, oh my
I
gosh,
know.
he's so good in FIBA. He's getting 10 free throws a game. Of course this will translate.
Was this after media day too?
This was like, I don't think so, because this was pretty early in September, I think, maybe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's really funny. Yeah, he's 85 of 108. I mean, that's another thing kind of about Josh though, even though he's not taking a whole lot. It's like he makes his free throws, I mean, that's a good thing. And he's shooting. It's kind of crazy to think that he's shooting he's like 34.4% from 3 and
Yeah.
at 78% from the line. Like I think if we would have said that preseason, we'd be like, man, he had a great season. And he clearly has not had a great season. He's had a nice run. He had a really nice March,
Yeah.
but those percentages don't quite match up with the storyline of his year. But credit to him for knocking down his free throws.
I was just gonna look real quick. So I do feel like his rebounding has been better as of late too. I know the Thunder as a whole have been a lot better.
All his
Rebounding.
counting stats in the month of March were better than any other month of the year.
Yeah.
I looked it up yesterday.
Yeah, even offensive, which going back to the game last night, they had 12 offensive rebounds. Pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Spread across the roster. And I think everyone knows by now that their defensive rebounding has been a lot better post All-Star break. They're like a top 10 defensive rebounding team. I was looking, their offensive rebounding, still terrible, still bottom 10, but they're like well off of the bottom, which is where they were for the majority of the season.
Yeah, and it's all been not personnel basis. I mean, Gordon Hayward does not come in and change the way that they rebound. I will tell you that. Yeah.
Well, Biyombo.
Hey, Bismack, at least he's bringing the mentality of a rebounder, at least the spirit of a rebounder. In March, Giddey was 16, 7, and 5, which is crazy to think. It's actually 7 rebounds is a high for him month by month. He was 5 rebounds per game in February, just a month before. So,
and that's still with only playing. He only still averaged 25.8 minutes per game.
Yeah, he averaged more minutes per game in October and November than he did in March, and he is quite a bit less in every category.
Because I'm assuming last year he was closer to 30, right? For most months. Let me see. He was 29.4, 30.7, 31.4, 30.9. Yeah. So in March, his great March last year, he was averaging almost 6 more minutes per game.
Yeah.
Actually,
18, 8, and 7 in March of last year.
Yeah. I just say that because you say 7 rebounds, it doesn't sound that impressive, but he's doing it in, a lot fewer minutes.
Yeah. I was talking to Joe Masato yesterday on the Dream Team show, and we kind of both agreed that it's not like his most productive month, but it may have been like his best month as a Thunder player, as far as like fitting in and like knowing how to play and really figuring himself out and playing with confidence. It was probably his best month as a Thunder player, I would say.
My next bold prediction: Ousmane Dieng will be in the starting lineup by the end of the season. Start 5 games. I don't believe he started a single game.
I mean, I don't even have to look it up.
Okay, I do. And he did not. Okay.
Dude.
I don't know why I was so hyped on Oos, man. I think it was, well, actually, I know why. It's
drinking
because
Oos juice.
No, I mean, I obviously was a little bit, but I think I had so many concerns about other guys in the starting lineup and thought, they'll probably try something else at some point.
Yeah.
And Oos brings a lot of things that you don't get from other guys on the roster. Like his combination of size, like positional size, especially if you're playing him like at the 3 or even at the 4. I mean, he's huge, tall. So I just thought there was a chance that they would opt for him. That did not happen at all.
No.
Quickly realized that wouldn't even be a possibility this season.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the dream is still technically alive. Maybe
That's true, and it would count. We did talk about this, but even if it was at the very end of the season, where they're either tanking games or they just don't care about the games,
they've got 7 games left. Are they going to fly him out to Boston to start tonight?
They should get Gorgman some rest. Start Oos. Oos is on a heater. He just had a game winner.
Yeah. Shout out.
My next bold prediction. I don't know why I said this. Someone other than Lou Dort or Isaiah Joe will lead the team in 3-pointers made.
Why did you say that?
I don't know. I don't know why I bothered saying that. I don't know. I think I was really hopeful that Chet or J Dub or just anyone else would do it. Chet, I mean,
I was gonna say Chet's not. Chet could pass Isaiah Joe.
not likely. So Dort is at
Oh, I'm looking
144.
at attempts. I'm sorry. Yeah, made not going to, but attempts he might. Sorry.
Dort is 144, Isaiah Joe 137, and then Chet is 121. So, and then J Dub's only made 100. So that did not turn out. Those two guys are still, and credit to Dort. I mean, one of the things I was probably factoring in was Dort's not going to have his best 3-point shooting season, and he's going to have reduced usage. So maybe, but yeah, Dort put together his best shooting season of his career, shooting 39.8%. So
yeah, he's been great. He's been great.
The next one, the only one I got right, I think. Let me make sure I got it right. Yes. OKC will be top 10 in 3-point percentage. Which man, that even knowing that they were better last year, because last year I predicted top 15, they ended up 17th. It still felt bold at the beginning of the season to say top 10. When in retrospect, I should have said top 5. If I had said the best, that would have definitely got me a Pocky, and it would have been correct.
What did we give that? Do you remember what we gave it?
I think it was a jalapeno or whatever the next one up is.
Oh, really?
A habanero.
So not that spicy.
Not as spicy as you would think. Yeah.
Yeah. Lou Dort is third all time in Thunder 3-pointers made.
Wow.
552 is where he's at right now. He passed Paul George.
Wow.
Recently in made threes.
Who just passed James Harden for something?
Josh Giddey passed James Harden in scoring.
Oh yeah, that was a weird one.
In less games too, which is.
Oh really? Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Lou Dort has attempted 1,592 threes. Kevin Durant still holds the all-time attempts for the Thunder at 3,000.
Yeah.
Westbrook is just like right behind Kevin at 2,995.
Oh, bring him back for a 10-day. Let him pass, KD.
Let him just chuck some threes.
Yeah.
Dort still is about half of what Kevin was as far as attempted.
So those are my 5 Thunder predictions. I got one correct, 1 point. Let's do Andrews. Andrews, first
scared.
one. Shea will win the MVP. You know, I almost want to give you a half point because of how close it will probably end up being.
Yeah.
True. But it does not seem like it's going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen. He would have had to have played in all of these games and played like he did in, December or whatever. For it to work out.
I am interested though to see what the final tally is because we've seen Shaq come out and endorse SGA. Stephen A. Smith came out and endorsed SGA. Mm-hmm. So you just kind of wonder if there will be some kind of like secret Shea vote, and we'll kind of be surprised by how close it ends up being.
Yeah, the Tim Bontemps poll is pretty telling that it's like very much in favor of Jokic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
I would like to complain about one thing because I've given up on Shea winning MVP, so I have to adjust my focus.
Yep.
I would like to complain about one thing. This is all I care about right now, which is that the statistic BPM should not be treated with the reverence that it gets treated with. And I think that if you were going to cite it,
who's citing it? That you're
I just no one in particular. No, I'm not thinking of like a specific person, but BPM when it comes to advanced stats gets cited a lot because it is freely available. Like you can just go on Basketball Reference and look it up real quick. Yeah. And I feel like it holds to a higher standard certainly than PER. And but even like compared to like win shares or VORP, I feel like when people are going to just say one advanced stat, they'll usually say BPM, box plus minus.
Yeah, I'm not hearing as much BPM as you are. I guess we're listening to podcasts.
Maybe. What are you hearing a lot of?
I mean, I'm hearing more of EPM.
EPM. Well, is that because you just listened to the low post?
Well, David
Or
Thorpe is like just believes that EPM might be the only stat possible.
I heard about that. I did not listen to it yet. But here's my
It was kind of funny, and I like that stat too. But for him, I mean, it is literally I think the only stat that he cites the entire time.
That's what I heard. I heard he was just citing EPM the entire podcast, which like that sounds like something like we would do. Like like the fact that Coach
Yeah.
David Thorpe. Anyways, here's my
Torpedo.
issues with BPM. I just don't think it should be used. I don't think people should talk about it. I think it should be thought of in the same way, maybe not as bad as PER, but like around there. And the reason is, one, you can go read wrote an article on Basketball Reference describing the stat. And if you don't know, box plus minus is a all-in-one stat that's trying to use box score stats to generate an overall score. It was the one that Russell Westbrook broke during his MVP season, and they actually had to change the formula so that Russ didn't have the highest BPM of all time. But and maybe you already don't like it because of that reason. But in that article, two things. One, they say, hey, don't take the defensive side of this that seriously. They say that. They say just you can use it as a guide, but if your eyes are telling you that this guy's a much better defender, hey, you're probably right. Don't worry about it. And I just mentioned that because like Jokic's DPM, his defensive box plus minus, is so much higher than someone like Shea.
Yeah.
And like so much higher. Like if you were just looking at that stat, you would think they are just in like other worlds as defenders.
Yeah.
And so it's just a reminder, like even the people, and it makes sense because if all these, if the stats being generated just from the box score, you know what's available defensively in a box score. It's not much. Like, so you don't take that side of it that seriously. And that's when you look at BPM, that's just an overall, summation of the offensive and defensive BPM. So that's part of it. The other thing is that in the same way that PER has like a favorite type of player, everyone kind of knows this, like the hyper efficient big man, like Enes Kanter,
rebounder. Yeah.
Yes. If you shoot like most of your shots around the rim and you grab a lot of boards, DeAndre Jordan, Enes Kanter, like you're going to have some crazy PERs. Well, if you're a center who acts as an offensive hub for your team, BPM loves you. Yeah. There's a reason why not just Jokic is number one, but like Sabonis is 6th in the league in BPM and Şengün is top 15. The reason is because it weights assists for centers. So if you are a center and you get an assist, you get way more credit for that than if you are a point guard like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Those assists are not treated equally. In fact, they're treated about as far apart as you can because the point guard has the lowest weight on their assist and the center has the highest weight. So I just want people to be aware of that because Jokic is like breaking this stat again, and yet they're not going to change the formula this time. No. They're going to leave it as is, and it's always going to favor those types of players. If you are a center and an offensive hub, you will look really good in BPM. That's all. That's my short little MVP rant about a single stat. I don't want to hear about it anymore. In fact, I was going to look up what is I was looking up J Will's BPM. I was just wondering if like he gets a little boost. He probably hasn't done it enough though for it to.
I was going to say I mean, if he had more games like that last night, maybe, but I don't.
Yeah.
Think that Shea leads the team in BPM. Chet is basically number 2. J-Dub 2.3. Giddey. J Will is positive, but not crazy positive. 0.7.
Okay. Anyway, back to Andrew's bad bold predictions. Number 2,
Davis Bertans, second on the team on the season. 3.9 box plus minus. More valuable than Chet, J-Dub, and Josh Giddey apparently.
Your second bold prediction, Andrew.
Yeah.
Absolutely a crazy thing to say. You said J-Dub will have at least one 5x5 game. At least minimum.
Oh man, I think I meant to say Wimby.
Well, that would have been maybe a jalapeno.
Yeah,
Um, let's see. The
so
closest he got,
he didn't ever get
no,
close.
no, he
Is
never
the
got
thing.
close.
The most he's had 3
He,
blocks
he had a
twice.
he had a 5.522 game,
Yeah,
so
that's what
2
I meant
steals,
to
2
say.
blocks.
I
That,
meant 5.522.
well, on the pod we were saying like, why didn't you just bring up Chet? I was going to see how close Chet got
Yeah,
because he did have some. He doesn't get a lot of steals though, but he did have like an 8.334 game. That's pretty
yeah.
close.
8.334 is pretty close.
He had a 4.324 game. So he would have been a better pick. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I guess I just felt more confident about like clearly he's gonna get rebounds, assists, and steals. I just thought that he's got
I'll have a
long arms.
random.
He's got
Yeah,
long arms and like
he does
has
for sure.
and plays like the 4 a lot of times on defense. That maybe he just catches lightning in a bottle one night and gets
Maybe.
5 blocks. But
Um,
yeah, that
your
was
next one.
did that reach Pocky level?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I couldn't
Just wanna
believe you had said it out
just
loud.
make sure. Just want to make sure.
So your next one
Uh-huh.
was that Chet will lead the league in blocks per game, and you
Hmm.
didn't get it because Wemby, but
Yeah.
he is tied with Anthony Davis for second. Now they are a full block per game behind
I
Wemby,
was gonna
so it
say
was never going to happen.
they're not close, but
But he is tied for number 2 currently.
the spirit of my prediction. Do I have 2 ghost points right now?
Yeah, I would say 2 for sure.
The MVP and the
For sure.
blocks. I
Yeah.
mean, Chet's been great. I mean, if I'm Chet, I'm going to bed every night just being mad that Wimby exists. You know, because like think about like what if just Wimby didn't exist. Think about how people would talk about Chet.
Yeah,
You know,
especially with like Scoot kind of underperforming, like some of these other names, especially now, like not playing, like Asar is out. Um, it really would have been such a stark contrast because Chet looks like a just regular NBA player at this point. It feels like he's already been in the league for a while and
yeah,
he's doing it for a team, near the top of the West. So yeah, it would have been nice, Andrew, if Wemby and his 15 win Spurs or whatever weren't stealing all this thunder.
yeah. I mean, people would be going crazy for like. I mean, against Golden State, he was 36, 10, and 5, 2 steals, 2 blocks. 2 threes. And people would be going crazy for this guy, thinking that like, man, this is one of the best rookies ever. He would have. I mean, I don't know. It'd be a lot different story if Wimby didn't exist. But like you watch, and I know that like it's probably irritating to Thunder fans, but like seriously, just go watch Wimby's highlights from last night against the Nuggets. There are like truly some crazy things that were happening down the stretch of that game involving Victor.
Yeah.
And he is, I mean,
I'm
he
so
can
interested to see what they do this summer
yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's the gap between them and Golden State, let's say, in the 10 seed, it's still pretty big.
Oh, it's
Like
huge right now.
just to get that number of wins next season, just to get to where they are, like in the 10 spot, that is
They've only
such a huge jump to make.
yeah.
Yeah, so
They've only
that'd be
won
18 to 41. They'd have to more than double their total, and you can't even come close to that bringing back this team.
no.
So even with internal development, so if they're interested in like really getting better, they're gonna have to make major moves because okay, maybe the Jazz are bad again. Memphis is going to be a lot better.
A whole lot
Houston,
better. Houston.
Houston's going to continue to get better.
Yeah.
Portland will be bad. So yeah, so maybe like Portland and Utah will be down there.
Yeah.
But man, the West is going to be tough.
And someone will have injuries and fall
Some will
out.
have injuries, and maybe it'll be the Clippers or one of these other old teams. The Suns. The Suns, if the Suns go out in the first round, do we
Yeah.
see a big shakeup with
Or if they
Matt
go out
Ishbia?
if they go out
Or
in
the play-in, yeah.
yeah. You following any HBS stuff with like
Yeah, I read that.
It feels like they have gotten 2 bad owners 2 times in a row.
Yeah, the weird part of that though is that the quote unquote journalists who
Yeah.
wrote that they do it for a specific reason, which is that they know they're going to drop this report, and it says in the article that they released this report to their the investment side of their company before they released it to the public,
Yeah.
and they took out a bunch of like shorts on Ishbia's company. So it's like not just that it was a hit piece, it's like they're doing a hit piece for a very specific reason so they can short his stock. And so not that any of it's not true, but it's just like there's no good person.
Yeah. Everybody looks bad in this thing. Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing like the same stuff that they're accusing of Ishbia of doing, which is like
exactly.
Anyways, but yeah, I'm sure he's a terrible guy.
Yeah.
Next, Aaron Wiggins will play the 5th most minutes on the team. Andrew.
Oh,
Now, what's so crazy
gosh.
about this one is like last year he was 6th,
I know.
and he's actually gone down to 8th
Yeah.
overall, behind Isaiah Joe, Cason Wallace, Josh Giddey, obviously in the starters.
Yeah, but don't people think he should?
But don't people think he should? Yeah, not maybe he's 300 minutes behind Isaiah Joe.
I
just for
know.
7th.
I know.
But yes, I think the Thunder fans would agree with you. Spirit of the bold prediction is true.
Yeah, the
It
spirit
should have been.
And I will not accept a ghost point because he's too far behind.
Yeah,
but
he's too far behind. And then your final one, which was just a mean one. No one liked this one. Shea will take fewer threes than last season. Don't know why you would want to say that. He only took 168 last year, and you wanted him to take fewer, or you were predicting that he'd take fewer.
Double down.
He's currently at 252. So
he's taking a whole lot more than he did last season.
Yeah, and good. I'll give you a ghost point just for maybe doing a reverse jinx on that. I don't think he's going to reach his career high, which his career high is 297. He would have to get up a lot of threes. But I think if he had played the full season, he did that. He took 297 threes in 56 games that season.
Yeah, that was still in the we're just trying stuff. You know,
he was trying a lot of stuff that year.
He even talked a little bit about it a few weeks ago about his like threes and how he was just trying so many different ways to take threes and now he's more consistent in the way that he takes them.
Yeah.
Especially with his footwork and stuff. But he's like, yeah, I was just like really just trying stuff that season.
Yeah.
You could tell. And he only made 30% of his threes.
Were you like, yeah, we knew. We watched you.
You know.
Michele only had 2 other bold predictions. He said OKC will have 2 All-Stars, which is one of those things, you know, Spirit,
maybe Ghost Point.
Maybe. I mean,
probably not. They weren't that close. Like who would
have? But if J-Dub had started the season like he ended up playing, I think it would have been more of a conversation.
Yeah, I would say, you know, going into next season, people are gonna. We'll do it on Slam and Jam, predicting first-time All-Stars. Like J-Dub will be on the list, like no doubt.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Let's see. What are his splits? Because let me look at his month by month. Yeah, October in only 4 games, but he was only 15-4-4 in October, 17-3-3 in November, and then 18-3-4, 19-4-5, 22-4-5 in February, and then in March he was 23-4. So he's just gets better month by month as the season goes. Man, he was really good in February.
And then his other prediction was that Lou Dort, classic Lou Dort hater. Lou Dort will lose the starting gig by the end of January.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. He really went down with the ship on the Dort hate.
I won't go through all of our league-wide predictions, but just some of the funny ones.
Yeah.
I said Cleveland would be the number 1 overall seed in
Mm,
the. Which, hey, there was a moment there where it was
hey,
like, hey, they're not going to catch Boston, but they might be the 2 seed.
yep.
Um, Trae Young traded to the Nets. You guys gave me a peach for Jason Kidd will be the first coach fired.
Which there, I mean, I would bet you there have been more than one. I bet you there's more than 10 Mavs podcasts, individual
That's true.
episodes
That's
about
true.
Jason Kidd being fired.
Yeah, so that one, the spirit of it was correct.
The peach.
Peach, yeah. Oh, okay. You had one good one. So yours were the Pelicans completely missed the play-in,
Okay.
which that one was basically we all looked and saw there's like 11 to 12 good teams in the West.
Yes.
Somebody's
Yes.
missing it.
A
Turned
good
out
team.
it was Memphis.
Memphis, yeah.
Your second bold prediction, Memphis will be the number 1 seed in the West.
I do remember that one.
You flipped that.
Yeah.
And then Timberwolves win the in-season tournament but miss the playoffs. So it's looking bad. But then
That's really bad.
76ers are going to lose in the play-in, which may have backed your way into potentially.
Hey.
With
They
the
did
Embiid injury.
the Heat. So
Yeah, so the Heat are a half game back of the Pacers right now. So it could be Pacers or Heat, but you could totally see Philly losing that game. Would they then also lose to Chicago or Atlanta at home? I don't know. But you have a chance. That's the good point.
Yeah. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to make the playoffs. But man, if Embiid, gosh, I don't know. Embiid was completely gassed at the end of that game. I mean, he was cooked within 29 minutes. Still made the free throws. Great job. Still got the steal on Josh Giddey. Good job. But I just don't know if it's a long enough ramp up period, especially with the fact that you have to play in that week.
Right.
You know?
And if they lose, they would have to play 2 games. And if they lose and play 2 games, well, now you're playing Boston, and it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, and then you have to go play Boston in round 1. I mean, it's really. I mean, if they won the 7-8 and played Milwaukee, Milwaukee has been a mess. And so, is it possible that they could beat Milwaukee in a series? I mean, yeah, I think so. Did you see? Did you see? The question that was posed to Doc Rivers last night and his answer?
No.
About just like, I mean, they lost to the Wiz last night. And they asked him just about like what's going on with this team, and he said, I don't know. I think it's focus. I don't know what it is. You know, it's funny. I've been sitting back and watching everything, not just our players, but our travel crew. Everything.
Oh yeah.
He said everything, and I've made a lot of notes. I will say, I won't share that, but we don't bring the necessary professionalism and seriousness on the road.
I would love to know what that means, because obviously Giannis called out the equipment manager earlier in the season.
Yeah.
And in his case, I think he was just making the point like this is not just a team effort, but the team includes like everyone, and like we all have to be at our best. Whereas Doc feels like he's noticed something very specific that's happening on the road.
Yeah.
I would like to know what that is.
They're 18-20 on the road, 29-8 at home. I mean, it's been a bizarre season for the Bucks, and I would not be surprised to see Dame wearing a different uniform next season. Question from Bronton in the chat. I was late to the pod, but do you think playing without SGA and Dub helps the other guys get ready for the playoffs?
It's hard to say that it'll really matter, because wouldn't you have wouldn't you like I mentioned earlier, wouldn't you have expected Giddey to like just kind of take over? And we didn't really see that. So like what did we really learn? I mean, it's nice to get those guys those moments, but like, Jay Will being an offensive hub, like how many minutes is that ever going to happen in a playoff scenario?
Full. I mean, I think it's good to get a variety of experiences, but like if the Thunder have their way, it will be Shea or Jada with the ball in their hands the last 5 minutes of every single playoff game, screening for each other, and then the other guys spotting up. Isaiah Joe may hit a big shot in a playoff game. Dort might Chet might, like, we can all see all those scenarios, but like it's going to be Shea and J-Dub. So I don't necessarily think I don't think that was like, man, we're going to see this situation in the playoffs. Like, no, I mean, but it is good to get a variety of experiences. And maybe the experience is for all these guys at the end of the game, like, hey, remember how Philly went? We need to make sure that these guys have the ball. So like, maybe that's like the good experience for them.
And also at the same time, it's like Kaysen still only got 14 minutes, so like, it wasn't even like that's
Right.
that's a guy that you would think of as like, oh, he's going to get more of a shot here with those guys out. So, yeah, I didn't take away a ton from that game, but
yeah, there's not a lot to take away.
Bring Moose back. Bring Moose back. Michele, I want to give him some credit.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
What? He said Orlando will be a top 6 seed. Nailed it.
Wow. Okay.
Got it.
Yeah, that's happened. Yeah.
The Clippers will be in the play-in. Probably not going to happen, but we'll give them a ghost point for spirit on that one.
Yeah, that's within the spirit question.
And then Michele, finally, he said Scoot Henderson will win Rookie of the Year, which I might remove a ghost point for that one.
Yeah, I was going to say that is, that is, yeah, Scoot. It's been a rough go for Scoot. I do think, I was going to say, Bronton asked about the Sixers getting fined. I think they are going to get fined with the way that they handled the situation with how they declared him in and out, which is funny because, listen, people knew he was going to play in this game. Days before, they knew he was going to play and tweeted it. Shams and Woj both tweeted about how he was going to play in this game against the Thunder. They named the specific game. And then the Sixers all day had him declared out all day long. And you have to, I can't remember like how long of a period it needs to be, but you need to go from questionable to probable to playing.
Yeah.
You can't just go from out and then like an hour before the game basically say, because they even at like the 5:30 Eastern time report, they had listed him as out. You have to like declare them questionable before then, and then they just like suddenly declared him questionable, and then he was playing. But it's like if you're the Sixers, just list him as questionable to begin the day, and if he decides he doesn't want to go, then you can remove that tag and just say he's out.
Yeah.
But to go from out, like they're going to be fined for that. Like I would be floored if they did not.
Do you think either of Dub or Shea would have played if OKC had known Embiid was playing?
I think everybody knew he was going to play anyway, so I don't think that was a factor.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that the Thunder now understand like it's not. I don't think they're ever going to be like we're going to win or lose games based on who we want to play or the position or anything. But I do think that they need these guys to be 100%. Going into the playoffs and know that. And so like resting them a night here or there, especially on back-to-backs. They have one more back-to-back, home back-to-back, Sacramento, San Antonio next week. If you rest them on a back-to-back, totally fine. Like it's probably good, especially for Shea, who's hit that game winner against the Knicks. Incredible, shot from him, but you could still tell that he didn't feel 100%. And if they end up the 3 seed because they lose, several games down the stretch, but Shea is healthy, that's a bigger win than being the 2 seed.
Oh, definitely. Especially if you believe that Dallas will end up in the 5 seed, then I almost would prefer it.
Yeah, same. So I just don't think, I think it's more just about making sure these guys are right. And J-Dub did turn his ankle in the second quarter of that Knicks game and probably doesn't feel 100%. And I don't know who's going tonight. I don't know if there's a chance that you're just like, hey, let's just see what we got. Like, let's give our fastball to the Celtics instead of the Sixers because we don't know exactly what we're getting against the Sixers. or it could just be like legitimately like these guys are hurt and they need to rest, and they may rest again tonight, which would be a bummer to like 2 back-to-back national television games to not have Shea or J-Dub. But at this point, like, it's about getting healthy, and it's about being ready for the playoffs when they get here. And that to me is like, that's got to be the number one priority for this team. And I think that it is. If they were fighting to get out of the play-in or something like that, I think, maybe even last night would have looked different. But I mean, you're basically, you've clinched a playoff spot. You're pretty much locked into a top 3 seed, which means you're getting home court advantage no matter what. So to me, it's like, rest these guys as much as you can down the stretch just to have them completely ready for the playoffs. And, it's great that they get that week off basically between the play-in and the playoffs. And so I think I don't know. I don't think it had to do with the Embiid injury though.
So tonight, Boston,
you would love to see full squad on both sides, just as like measuring stick, like what do the Thunder look like?
Yeah.
I would not count on it. I would not count on it, but it's certainly possible to see. But yeah, I'm interested. And then Indy and then Charlotte to end the road trip. So we will break down this Boston game for the Fry Pod. So be sure to listen to that. If you're a listener to the Athletic NBA show, we've got Josh Robbins back on the show this week to just bring his just beautiful podcasting voice back to the world. So
yeah, we'll talk about that huge Wizards win over the Bucks.
I mean, it's the wheel. The wheel generated that, I would say. It's crazy. I would not have predicted that. That's insane. All right. Thank you so much for listening to our show. We will talk to you guys again on Friday.